Yeah, I can't wait to talk to Cary because this is getting more and more interesting as they have now kind of tapped the Washington, D.C. model.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be a mandate at some point for if you have the gene or the DNA to where you can take the alcohol DNA because it's
genetic.
Genetic.
Yeah.
It's clearly genetic.
Right.
And there's a certain type of gene that they've identified where they've developed a medicine that's going through FDA approval that can solve the issue.
Cary Claiborne, CEO, Adial Pharmaceuticals. Their ticker symbol is ADIL. Doing God's work. I think a lot of people would easily say he joins us once again here on the Big Biz Show. Cary, how are you?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Good.
Well.
Good. Cary, I'm going to ask you, what is the percentage of folks with this affliction, the alcohol disorder? I can't remember, but it's not called alcoholism anymore.
Alcohol use disorder.
Alcohol use disorder.
Right.
What is the percentage that you guys are focusing on in this initial therapy?
It's about 14% that have the biomarker that our drug appears to help people with, based on what we've seen so far.
And will this be prescribed? Will this be a prescription-based drug eventually over the counter, or is it? And then I know you're working on other therapies, but where do we start at?
Yeah, it would be a prescription drug.
And Cary, can you talk a little bit about, I know we've talked before about the personalization about it. You look into the biomarker and then also, I believe it's like the attributes of the person and their lifestyle. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's targeted for people that have alcohol use disorder, typically in the moderate to severe category, where in our study, we'd be looking at people that when they do drink, it's called drinks per drinking day. They drink at least 8 drinks per drinking day. So they're pretty heavy drinkers. And they would possess a certain biomarker that represents about 14% of the patients out there.
Cary, as far as this is concerned, and a drug that attacks AUD, how much is the mental component important with people who suffer from it?
It's very important. In fact, our drug works in the brain, so it's a serotonin 3 blocker. So it works in the brain to impact the dopamine reward system. So cravings and impulsivity drive a lot of addictive behavior, including alcohol use disorder. So
sure.
What we've seen is that by working in the brain, it kind of takes away the cravings and the impulse to drink, and it helps people drink less. Because they just don't get satisfied after 1 or 2 drinks, where before it took maybe 8 drinks, for them to really start to feel normal. They don't even really drink to feel good anymore when they're suffering from moderate to severe AUD. A lot of times they're just drinking to feel normal again because their body is so accustomed to drinking at those high levels.
Cary Claiborne is the CEO of Adial Pharmaceuticals. Their ticker symbol ADIL.
Hey, I know that AI is coming into drug discovery, and I know that you guys are at the tip of the spear there. Talk about how AI sort of assisted this along.
Yeah, we collaborated with a company called Cytel that has certain AI and machine learning tools to really dig into our data from our prior studies to make sure we were really targeting the right group. We had hypotheses based on our old traditional way of analyzing data that kind of zeroed in on this one particular genotype. And what Cytel was able to do was kind of run through multiple simulations of the data to really reconfirm that we were going down the right path. Because as you can imagine, precision treatments like this, can go in a number of different ways. We wanted to make sure that we were targeting the right group, and all that did was really able to efficiently scrub the data and kind of remove what they call the noise when you're analyzing clinical data, and really zero in to, this is the ideal candidate for us to go after.
The big question is the barriers to entry into this, and then getting adoptability. I can imagine as soon as you get through that piece of the FDA story and you get into a new drug situation, now it's about awareness. And is the idea to take this thing to market yourselves, or is this idea to do the risk aversion model whereby a bigger pharma company comes in and takes it to the market? How do you play that?
Yeah, ideally it would be a bigger company that already has a commercial infrastructure, already has the capability and infrastructure to work and get the drug into as many hands as possible. I mean, people on our team, we have commercial experience. We could build that, if needed, but ideally, the most efficient process would be to partner with someone that's already commercially active and has an interest in the drug.
Because we are on American Forces television and radio services here in 175 countries, it was very important on the press release that you guys put out on March 24th, whereby you guys gave a thumbs up to Congress on introducing bipartisan legislation, expanding access to this AUD therapy, specifically for veterans. Talk about that a little bit for those of us who haven't followed that story.
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues is, there are a lot of folks in the military that are suffering from alcohol use disorder, not unusual, not different from the general population. One thing that differs, what we've been told, is that opiate use disorder, addiction to painkillers, typically happens after they come home from the war and they're recovering from injuries. But a lot of them are suffering from alcohol use disorder while they're still actively, in the service, which is, a big issue, especially for, the veterans that are out there. So there haven't been any new treatments. What we applauded was, Congress really taking a closer look at, encouraging new ways of treating alcohol use disorder, other substance use disorder, other new therapies, which is important because, again, there haven't been any new ones in over 20 years for alcohol use disorder.
Cary Claiborne, CEO, Adial Pharmaceuticals, ticker symbol ADIL. As I said at the beginning of his segment, doing God's work. So many people affected by this, unfortunately. Obviously, keep an eye on what Adial Pharmaceuticals is doing.
Thanks, buddy.